Rupal, thank you so much for joining us here at SuperReturn International.
It's a pleasure, Emma. I love chatting with you.
It's great to see you again, and it's always interesting to hear your insights. As a sort of former member of the CIA, you've got a very different perspective probably to a lot of the people, the 4,000 people that are at this conference this year. Tell me about that and how you like to kind of change things up, if you like.
Yeah. So I think some of it is just that lateral thinking. At the CIA, we often had to pull in information and expertise from hugely disparate fields and backgrounds to make sense of the bigger strategic picture or pictures. And that instinct has really stayed with me, in everything that I've done since. And, things like philosophy, psychology, physics, whatever field of human endeavor, there are so many interrelations and correlations and things that we can learn. And I think that lateral approach was really informed some of what I spoke about today around how we look at disruption and innovation and how we take the bigger picture view of not just, what are the returns and what is the financial logic here, but also what is the almost civilizational picture that we're looking at with hugely disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence, and how do we wield that power without succumbing too much to the downside. And so it's that, like I said, pulling on the many strands and linking them all together to hopefully provide new insights or to just, as you said, shake things up a little bit.
You were speaking at the Disruption and Innovation Summit, and you talked about offensive and defensive disruption. Explain that for me and what you mean by that.
Yeah, so I think there's this notion of, innovation for innovation's sake. And not all innovation is created equal, and not all disruption is created equal. And there are many challenges in the world and many opportunities that are worth pursuing. But I think in that offense, right, in being the first and being the leader and dominating the market, whatever phrase you want to put to it, we forget about the defensive side of things, again, from a bigger picture. So taking something like AI, it has huge possibilities and potentials for revolutionizing things from medicine to education to, all manner of what we do in our day-to-day lives. But there's also some real and very present challenges around how AI can be weaponized. And this is true for all tools, all technologies, right? There's always going to be a weaponized form of it in some capacity, a negative form of it, and then a more constructive form. And so is to not just blindly pursue it for its own sake, but to make sure we're building in those safety measures and those mechanisms to minimize the downside and make the most of the potential upside.
You believe this industry, who are the wealth creators and are the wealthy, really have a responsibility too?
For sure, because at the end of the day, depending on how we evolve the innovation and the disruption that we're enabling and investing in, it can quite literally undermine the foundations on which that wealth and success is built. So civilization, the underpinnings of what provides coherence to markets and to capitalism could potentially be seriously disrupted by some of these technologies. And so it's not to be that sort of sky is falling pessimist, but to be very clear-eyed about the challenges, the dangers, and to, again, build that into how we roll out the technologies and how we support the technology. And again, I hate to use this word, but how we regulate them sometimes, because it shouldn't be a free-for-all. And I think in order to unlock the market dynamics and the potential and the wealth, we need to be, again, very clear-eyed about how we're protecting the foundations on which all of these things are built.
How receptive and open do you realistically think this industry are to those sort of warnings at the moment?
I don't know. I'm a sort of an optimistic cynic, if that makes any sense. And so the optimistic side of me thinks that, look, there are brilliant and really good people in this industry, in all industries. And then, of course, you'll get opportunists who will grow for the sake of growth and do, sort of create that value, create that profit at any cost. So let's, again, just be clear-eyed about that and make sure that we do what we can in order to limit the exploitive side of things. And look, it's not for me to decide or say what we should and shouldn't be receptive to. but to at least start asking those questions and to start asking them more consistently so that these conversations get normalized in investment committee meetings, in conferences like this.
And with a more consistent approach towards things like ESG, you hope that that is something that's permeating more throughout the industry, that they do have to take responsibility and they could actually be a force for good.
Yes, and I think again, taking the really big picture, things like ESG and DE&I, they become buzzwords and people start rolling their eyes and sort of go through these tick their box exercises to satisfy regulators or to satisfy the reporting requirements. But the reality is a lot of the reasons for those ESG initiatives and DEI initiatives, et cetera, are just basic good common sense and taking that broader civilizational sort of humanity-based view. We need to fix the way we operate on Earth, because then if we can't prove our MVP here on Earth, that we can make things work, we can fix problems, we're not just going to extract, then why even bother going to Mars? Mars has become this big symbol of like human innovation and what we can do, and it's inspiring, and it's leading to a lot of brilliant technologies being developed. But if we're just going to go to Mars and destroy it again in another couple thousand years, what's the point? Are we going to then have to keep looking for new planets? And so it sounds a bit sci-fi, but the reality is, we are genuinely looking to get to Mars and finding ways to populate new planets. So let's make sure that we get this experiment right first and maximize and tap into the potential we've got here and fix what we've got here, so then we can take this MVP and replicate it on potentially Mars.
Because there is still so much to do here. You talked about the fact that we still have to do here, as you described it, before we can move on to any other planet.
Yeah, and I think again it goes back to that thing of chasing something new for its own sake, because new is exciting and sexy. And yes, of course, there's opportunity in new uncharted territories, but yes, we haven't maximized the potential for basic technology like PV, like renewables, and it seems to me that is a very easy potential way of disrupting and innovating, because we already have the foundations, we have the basic fundamentals, and now it's just rolling it out at scale and rolling it out, again, with an awareness of the potential impact that something like that could have, where we are doing, coating every material in PV, or all cars or, have roofs that are coated in PV, whatever it looks like. But the technology is already there, so it seems a bit silly to be hunting for new ways when we haven't really fully unlocked the potential of what we've already got to work with.
So you would like to see a sort of deeper kind of adaptation and adoption of technologies than just moving on to the next big thing.
Yes, and I think that's exactly what it is. It's about leveraging what we've already got, while yes, of course, spending time and investment and energy on developing new and the next. But let's not forget about this huge pool of existing technology, potential talent, ideas, all of these things that have been underutilized to date. And that extends into also, the human capital element, where, again, I hate using the term because it's so cringy and it has become a bit dismissed, but diversity, right? We talked about this last time a bit as well, like the diversity of ideas, the diversity of thought. Most of these rooms are still very, very white male, and, just unlocking the potential in the women in this industry, having more women, investing in more women-led startups and businesses. There's so much room for disruption and innovation there, with an existing pool of talent that has not been properly financed, invested in, tapped into, whatever commercial jargon you want to put onto it, to date. And this is not an idealistic argument. This is, from my perspective, a purely capitalistic argument, where we've got this value, we haven't extracted it yet, let's extract the value.
And if you were to perhaps hope that people went away with one message from listening to you speak at this conference this week, what would you hope it would be?
Yeah, it's to think really big about how we can do things better and bigger and more comprehensively here. Before we start looking for new planets or to dominate space, etc., there is so much more work to do. Let's use what we've got and unleash that, while, like I said, at the same time building parallel experiments and other things. But yeah, just to think bigger about these problems that we've sort of given up on, right? About renewables or equality, diversity, whatever challenge it is that has become mundane. Let's start working on that, fixing that, being bigger around those issues. And I think inevitably, when we do invest properly in these things and dig deeper into these, you will get the ripple effect, the waterfall, whatever analogy you want to use, of the innovative ideas, of the new things that can take us to Mars, can help us dominate space.
Those will be the strong foundations that
Yes.
other things can be built on.
Exactly.
Rupal,
Exactly.
thank you so much for joining us. Always fascinating to talk to you.
Thank you.